Hello and welcome. Let's talk about Redux Saga. So we know what Redux looks like. It has actions and it has reducers. Saga is a middleware. It sits between the actions and the reducers. It uses generator functions and it's able to do async behaviors within Redux, and it's great for testing. So what do we need to do in order to intercept an action? We'll put up a listener trying to intercept whatever action is coming from our action creators, this being add to cart. We'll take over the add to cart and we'll do all of our logic within the saga rather than within the action. This is now going to be a pure action that just passes back whatever it receives with a type attached and a payload. So if the action took in, say, an item, its payload would be that item. Now, if we take a look at the cart actions right now, since we're in add to cart here, we have item cart. All we're going to pass back is item cart, and we'll do none of this logic at all. We'll handle that all within sagas. We have an add to cart here as a type. Sagas are catching things by their type name. So we have a type of add to cart. Saga is going to grab every add to cart it sees come across Redux. That means that we can't have a type of add to cart dispatched from the saga, or it will be caught in our middleware. So I'm going to do something like this. In actions, I'll rename this to add to cart saga, meaning this is going to push to the saga. And here I'm just in the saga dispatch a add to cart to my reducer. And in sagas, we don't actually dispatch or return. What we do is put. So we're going to put to our reducer the result of all of our logic and then let our reducer update the state. So let's see where we left off in our app right here. Now, this app has an employee name, so we could find an employee from this random user generator API to come back from here. This is an asynchronous behavior, and add to cart, all of these are not asynchronous behaviors. And that's going to fail because of that comment out that I did. Let me just bring that back real quick, and we're back on. So this would add. This would remove. This makes the call, and we see a results array where George is the name, and I can guarantee you that in resorts, under name, it's a George. And the same thing happens with the customer name. We're just making those calls there. This also has a total that adds things up and subtracts things from the cart as well. And it has an alert message, but we're not going to work too much with that today. So let's get started with Redux Sagas. First thing we'll do is actually set up a dummy saga, just a saga that is just going to print out like its own hello world, so we know that Redux Sagas are working. So install it first. So yarn add redux-saga. Let's go up and import, create saga middleware from Redux Saga. Perfect. Now above everything, we're going to have a const. I'm just going to name it Saga middleware, not Sage middleware, Saga middleware. That is going to equal create Saga middleware as a function, and we're no longer using redux-thunk, so that gets out of here. Saga middleware, and the middleware is being spread where it was before in our create store call. So Redux Saga should be hooked up to Redux right now. I will save that, and we're going to make ourselves in our Redux folder a new folder that says sagas. So that's our sagas folder, and we'll keep all of our sagas in it. The first set of sagas I'm going to make is the cart sagas. So let's write cart sagas.js. And inside of here, we're going to do a very simple saga just to kind of console log something for us. It'll be a export function. And now this is what makes it a generator, the asterisk. That's a function generator now. Let's call it hello saga. It will console.log hello from Saga. And that's that. I will save that, and we're going to now go into the store and run this Saga. So Saga middleware dot run, and it was called Hello Saga. There it is. Now we have to check this, so I'm just going to yarn start, and let's see if we get Hello Saga in our console. That's what we're looking for to know that this is hooked up properly. There it is, hello from Saga. That's what we wrote, all capitals, perfect. So we took a look at this and we saw that we have a function, but it's called a generator. This is a generator, and what's different about generators? Let's look at that right now. I'm going to create a regular function. Let's call it practice. This will be our practice function. Inside of it, we're going to just console.log a few things in a row. First will be I, and then we'll do just 4 of them. So a function. Now invoke that practice function like so, and you see it prints back I am a function. What happens with function generators? Let's pop an asterisk on that. Now we have a function generator and nothing is hitting our console because function generators have a call. They have a next call attached to them. So let's say dot next, and we'll go there. Now we see I am a function. So this isn't a big improvement on a normal function, is it? Now we have to actually write more for the function to run. Here's where the improvement is. We're going to write the word here, yield. Now it says I, and it stops where we set it to yield. Let's go deeper into this, and to do that, I'm just going to make a const to make this a lot easier. We'll call it prac, kind of the shorter practice, and that'll equal that function practice. And now we no longer have to invoke function anymore, so prac.next, same thing, just the I, and it yielded right there. Now if we call next again, it'll print the rest of it. But we could also yield again. We could yield right here. You can see I am a. Now it's stopped right at the A portion at this yield. So if we go one more time, it should print the rest of it. And that's it, it's finished, or as generators like to say, done is true. So what do I mean by that? Let's console.log prac.next. And what do we have here? We have an object with value and done inside of it. Done being false means that there's more to do inside of this generator. There's more to do here. So since I put it at the point where A was, it's yielded right here, its done value is false. Now, if we go one more, its done value is true. It ran the entire function. You see the word function here, and let's walk through that now. We have console.log this one as well. And this one's doing nothing. Okay, so now everything's console.logged. We have I. We don't really need to worry about these console.logs. I'll actually bring this up a little. Cool, we can see everything here. So we console logged 3 separate times. We had the I, and it yielded there. Here was the value. We're not returning anything from this, so the value is going to be undefined in all of them. But the done feature is what I want you to look at. So I, it says, I am not done yet, but I'm stopped here. We call next, it does the M, it sees another yield here, it gets to A. It says, I am not done yet, but I ran into another yield. Then we call next again, and we have the word function, and it says, I am done. So Redux Saga is taking advantage of this in order to give us some real good access to asynchronous behavior and testing. Let's head back into the app and work with this now that we understand what these functions are kind of doing. So we have our export hello saga function. I no longer want that. We figured that one out already. I'll go to my store and just comment that out. Okay, so no more of that. We're going to do some imports, so we don't have to go to the top of the page, to the bottom of the page over and over, and we could focus. So just do all these imports with me now, and that'll be the imports for this file. We will import put take every, you know what, I'm going to do the from first so I can get some auto completion here. Redux Saga / effects, that's what I'm looking for. Put take every, all, call, take, and take latest. Great. And I also want to import some of our action types. So we are going to need add to cart. And again, I'm going to finish this so that we can autocomplete from, this should be dot slash, oh no, up one, dot dot slash to types. Okay, add to cart and remove from cart. We need to come in here. And that's what we need to get started here. Let's get started with our first saga. I'd like to grab the cart actions, and I want to do this kind of in line. So we want to export this const cart actions. It takes in item in cart. It does a new const placing the cart and the new item in an array and makes a new total. So we'll bring in these two functions. The total function doesn't need to change at all. That's just a little helper for us to get the cart total whenever something is added or taken away. So that's not really a saga thing. That's just going to sit there and don't worry much about it. Here, we need to change this to a saga. I'm going to do a saga under it. So export function with a star to make it a generator, add to cart saga. That is going to take in an action. And here's where we're going to work on all the stuff in the body. Now, we have this going on here with an item and cart, and it already has the item and cart to make this new cart. We, of course, are only getting the action. So the action will be intercepted and sent to this saga, and then we're going to need to pull off item and cart, which means we need to take the logic out of here, get rid of this logic, and even the return. The return is going to be much simpler. So we will return, the type will be, we haven't made this type yet, but it'll be add to cart, and we said we're going to make it saga because we know we're going to the sagas if we say that. So we have the add to cart saga, and then we have the payload, and the payload is going to be the item and the cart. So this is what this will look like when it's all finished up. We need to get the item and the cart from the action. The action has a type and a payload, so we're looking to deconstruct const cart, comma, item set equal to action dot payload. Now that we have that, we can pretty much just do what this says right here. The only thing that won't work is the return at the end. See, the return at the end is not how we work with sagas. We need to use their put call. So we will yield put, and then we'll wrap all of this in our put call with parentheses like that. We could save that up, and we just made a add to cart saga. It's letting us know that that is not defined in our types. So this is now pretty much done, and I can move this. I could get this out of here, and I'm going to move it into the cart actions, and we could say goodbye to the old one. Now we just have a plain action creator. It gets item in cart, it sends item in cart with the add to cart saga type attached to it, which gets intercepted in cart sagas. And what did we say about that in our draw IO here? We saw add to cart will get intercepted by the saga in the middle. So that's what's happening. Every time one of these types fires up, sagas is going, that's mine, but only if we define it to be ours. So let's do that next. So we need to watch for the actions. So how do we watch for the actions? At the bottom of after everything, export function, and it's going to be a generator, and all of these will start with watch. So this will be watch add to cart saga. Now we yield inside of this, and the first thing we want to do is take every. So every time it sees an add to cart saga, we want to say that add to cart and then the word saga. I want you to send it to this function, which was add to cart saga. So every time it sees add to cart saga come across in Redux, add to cart saga came, it hit it, it's going to take it and it's going to send it to the add to cart saga right here, the function. It's going to do the function and then yield this put, which will hit our reducer to update our state. Now we just have to wire this up the same way that we wired up the first thing that we did, this hello saga. Head back to your cart with watch add to cart saga on your mind or in your copy and paste, and uncomment this saga middleware.run. We're doing the watch add to cart saga and save that. One final thing, just what it's saying right here, this is not defined, so we have to define it and we need to bring it in. In our types right here, I'm going to copy both of these. And all we need to do is add saga to the end of them. So saga. Saga. That is working now, and we need to put that in two places. One in the cart actions, add to cart saga. And we might as well put it here too, remove from cart saga. And I'll change it here as well so that we don't get any errors, but we won't be testing remove from cart yet. Now we need to fix it in our cart sagas. We have an add to cart saga here, and we need to put it here. So add to cart saga, and let's get remove from cart saga as well. So the importing is kind of done. And it says watch add to cart saga is not defined. That is absolutely true. I did not import this. I kind of just pasted it in. Let's import. Oh, you know what? We could just do it right here. Perfect. All right, let's take a look now at our app and see if this is working. We hit add. We now have Overwatch in our cart with a total of 20. Let's do Fortnite, 51. The total is 71. This is still working, and it is hitting our Saga middleware on our way through. Let's trace it one more time, and please follow me through on this. I know if you have it already in your head, this might seem like an unnecessary step, but it is very important. We have our add to cart is now going to say add to cart Saga. Now we have it hit our saga. Our watcher is looking for it. It's going to look for it, and after it does all of this, let's change this with a dash, type, add to cart. And the reducer is looking, it's switching over all of the types, and now it finds the type of add to cart. And the beauty of that, we did all of our logic within this saga. This is what we need in order to update our state properly. So one more time, actions dispatched, saga intercepts, saga does all the logic, saga decides it's time to add it to the cart with a put call, hits the reducer, and the reducer works perfectly normally like it always has. Let's head back in and do another one. There is also the remove from cart saga. Go to cart sagas, head down to, go to cart actions, head down to remove from cart action. I want to bring this in before we go to cart sagas, and I'll put it right here. So we have our remove from cart action, and we're going to make our remove from cart saga. So export function with the asterisk, remove from cart saga. There is our generator getting ready right there. Again, we have item and cart coming in here. All the logic is being done inside of here. We no longer want that. We now want item and cart being sent to remove from cart saga so that we could pull it off of the action. So item and cart needs to be involved in the action.payload. Right now, we have this new cart and so on. Let's get rid of that and just pass an item, comma cart. So now all that's going to happen is it's going to get a remove from cart action fired off and then return type remove from cart saga payload item cart. So let's work on all the logic inside of here. We'll take in our action and we will deconstruct our cart and our item from action.payload. And then we'll do all of this logic. We can really just copy it. This is all synchronous behavior. Of course, if you're testing, you could yield at any of these points. You don't need to just yield where I'm saying. So that's pasted in, and we need to do our yield put call. And we have an object in there with a type, and that is add to cart without, oh, I'm sorry, this is remove from cart. That is remove from cart, but without the saga. And then we'll have the payload. The payload will be an object, and it needs to be the same as this. So I'm going to paste this in new card. Okay, so it needs to have a new card, and that's actually called hard copy. I made a copy of the card, so let's do that. And it needs new total, which is just called new total. This function will now work. Great. Now we need to take this function. This is our action. I've copied it, and then I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to head to cart actions and replace it. Perfect. Delete all the logic. Now it's just an action creator that takes an item and cart and dispatches an action with type remove from cart saga with the payload of item and cart. Let's head back to our sagas and kind of finish wiring this up. We have this function to watch add to cart saga. We need to make another one. And it needs to watch remove from cart saga. It's going to take every, and right here, remove from cart saga and pass it to remove from cart saga. Okay, so when it sees remove from cart saga, it's going to pass that to this function, which will take the action, deconstruct cart and item from the action.payload. It's going to make a copy of the cart so that it doesn't have to filter over the actual cart. And it's going to remove the item that was passed in. Then it's going to get a new total with the new cart, and we're going to send a put. And this put is going to communicate with our reducer in order to send it, hey, remove from cart, and here is your payload, and then that updates the state. We only have one problem here. You see how we handled the first one, apply saga middleware.run, and then we put our saga in there. It would be much better if we could put many sagas in there. So let's get started on that. So we will export. And we can actually just do this default because we will be moving it later. So just do it default for now. We'll export default, and it's going to be called root saga. And we do all of our function work. Make sure, again, this is a generator function. Make sure you're using generator functions. And in here, we are going to yield all. We're using that all keyword. And in there, we need an array. And inside there, we're going to put everything that we want to send into our store. Instead of just watch add to cart saga, let's do watch add to cart saga as a function, and then we'll comment to our next one. That is watch remove from cart saga as a function. Save that up, head back to your store, and now instead of watch add to cart saga, we're going to do here root saga. That's auto importing for me, and it's a default import, so do not put it within curly braces. Now we have our root saga there with both of our sagas being watched. Let's see if this is working for us. We head back to our app. We try to add to the cart. We know that was working. Let's remove, and that's working too. This is great. The total is working as well. Everything is functional. Let's make some fake async behavior just to test a few things out in our cart sagas. So at the top here, I'm just going to make a new function. I'll just make it a fat arrow function. I'll call it wait. Wait is going to take an amount of milliseconds. We will fat arrow ourselves to a new promise. And this promise is going to take in a res for resolved, and we'll fat our function to set timeout. And at the end of set timeout, it has res for resolved and ms. So it can either be resolved or rejected. We're going to resolve it after a certain amount of milliseconds. So we can now use async behavior. Let's do that on the add to cart saga. We'll do everything in the function, but before we go ahead and do the yield put here, let's do a yield wait. And I'm going to pass in, how about 1 second? That's 1,000 milliseconds. Now let's see if it still works now. We're going to press it and then wait for 1,000 milliseconds to pass. And there we are with the first one. 1 second. 1 second. Perfect. This is working perfectly. And now I'm going to remove them. And you'll see I could click it many, many times, but it's still going to take 1 second for it to be down there. If you want to only take, say, 1 click, there's a really good way to do that with sagas. It actually restarts the function every single time, and it's called take latest. So right now we're in take every, put in here take latest, and see the different behavior. Now I'm going to add this, but I'm going to press it before the 1 second is up, and we could kind of keep it in limbo for as long as we want, because it's only going to process the latest click, and when I stop, it's added to the cart. So that's a nice function that they have here that they give to you, and it comes right from redux-saga/effects. What do I have left here is call and take. I'm going to use a lot of call in the next one. So I'll get rid of these, and we can leave this as this section. Cart sagas, we could call done. It is working. What we want to do next is the user sagas. So in sagas, let's make another one. User sagas.js. So our user sagas are going to replace our user actions. Let's see our user actions. They have quite a bit of logic inside of them. All of this logic is going to be done in sagas. So when it comes down to it, none of this will happen here. Let's bring this in and convert it to a saga. User sagas, I will paste that one in. And just on top, let's actually do all of our imports quick, just so we don't have to go up and down. I do hate doing that to people. It kind of takes your head out of what you're doing. So we will import put, we definitely need that. Take every, we'll need call as well. Let's just take all in case we need it. And at the end, I want to show you race. That's a lot of fun. So import that as well. We won't use that for quite a bit, but we'll import that all from Redux Saga -effects. And we have that all in there. So we need to do the same type of thing when it comes to types. Let's get that out of the way. We see we have find employee. And when we look at our flow here, reducer is looking for find employee. So we're going to change the type here from find employee to find employee saga. And the saga is going to push out the put the find employee to our reducer. Head into our types. Let's get that done. So underscore saga, and one more time, underscore saga. Save that up. Here we are in the user saga, and this is going to be find employee, and guess what? You're going to be saga. And I will auto import that as well as find employee, as well as find customer, as well as find customer saga. Let's start working on this asynchronous action here as a saga. So export function generator find employee saga. And there's the body. We're going to need all of these two. Actually, let's bring them all down and we'll do it line by line. So these two are setting up our URL and our headers so that we could pass it into our fetch call. So that doesn't need to yield or anything like that. If for some reason you would like to yield here, you can, and you'll get away with it. Next, we're going to let res await fetch. We do not async await here. All we do is yield, and then we'll do our fetch. Fetch pass in the URL that we just had, and we'll pass in set headers. And that is actually how it should be passed in. We don't have to set headers for the API that we're using. So you might have seen me do it this way. I'm not sure that this would have worked. The way that I have headers written, where it is sort of like that, is the way to go, is just do it plain and just put set headers in there the way that it is. So we want to fetch that just like we were doing here, the URL and the set headers. And we can still keep it in res. We can still let res equal that. And now res holds the result of this fetch call. Now res has to do one more thing. It needs to equal yield yet again for res.json as a function. This is also an asynchronous call here. It needs to be done like so. We can console.log the res just like we were doing before, and then let employee equal res.result at 0. That's the same thing that was up here. Now we no longer are going to dispatch anything. We're going to yield put, and inside of there, get this out of your way, we will have our type, and that will be find employee, but not Saga. There we go. The type is find employee, and the payload, that will be the same payload that it had, which was this one employee right here. So this find employee, it no longer needs this async dispatch. That's a redux-thunk thing, so get out of here. You're just going to be a normal fat arrow function. You're going to have no logic at all to you. And you're going to pass back a type of find employee Saga with payload of that employee. Let's watch for this. So export generator, so function generator there. Watch find employee Saga. And we've done this several times now, so I hope it gets a little more familiar here. Yield, take every, and then find employee Saga, that's the call that's being made in the action.type. And we want to pass it to find employee Saga, this right here. So it'll take that and pass it up here. It'll get the URL, it'll set the headers, it'll let the result equal yielding to this fetch call. It will let the result now equal yielding to this res.json call. We'll console.log the response, and we're going to let an employee, which is just the res.results at position 0 in the array, so just one employee. Then we'll yield put, which means send it to our reducer with a type of find employee and a payload of employee. Now we run into yet another problem of how do we get this into our app? You see, we have cart sagas, and this one's working great because we have down here this root saga. And this root saga here is just in this file. So why don't we make a kind of root saga file, and we'll just import everything we want in the root from the other files and send that over to our store so that we can combine all of our sagas into one. So in our sagas, we will make a new folder called root saga.js. And we're going to do it just like this. So I'm going to take it from here and get rid of this. So I'm going to take it from here, and in root saga, I could paste that in. That'll export a default function called root saga. It will yield all, and it has the watch cart and watch remove from cart. So those need to be imported. Import from just / that's cart sagas. Then we'll take in that watch, add saga, and watch remove saga. Save that up, and let's get our last saga in there. That was in our user sagas. It was called watch find employee saga. Okay, so to our root sagas, import watch find employee sagas from / user sagas. And just comment that in, watch find employee saga, and invoke it. Now here we are with all of our watchers in one place, and we want to bring that into the store. So we had root saga coming in from this cart sagas. We no longer need this at all. So let's import root saga from, then we want to go // into our sagas and head to our root saga. And we can actually just put it back there. I didn't even have to delete that. It has the same name. Great, now it's telling me that dispatch, and oh yeah, that's absolutely fine. We haven't finished that file yet in the user sagas.js. Let's take a look. All right, it's just actually complaining because we didn't move this back yet. Yes, but we're not quite done yet. So I'm going to copy this and cut it out and get it out of here so we could save. And it says all is not defined in root saga. Oh yeah, that's actually true. I didn't do that. So let's bring in all in the root saga. That should be the only thing we need in here. Import all from redux saga /effects. All right, you're good there now. Now let's go back to user actions, and we're going to paste this in. So remember, we don't dispatch. That is a redux-thunk thing. We only return here. Now we have an export const find employee, which takes in nothing, returns find employee saga, and there is no employee here either. All the logic gets done in the user sagas right here. Gets the URL, gets the headers, everything is done here rather than the user action. So we're just firing off this type, which we don't have up here. So let's bring that in, find employee saga, and let's do the other one, the find customer saga. Now everything is in this file. Change this one right now. We'll save that, and let's see what we're working with. Can we find an employee now? We'll head to the React app. We'll click find employee, and it worked. Everything worked beautifully. Here's our results. And we have our results. It is a person named Alberto. There he is. We have to do this one more time for our find customer. Here we are in the user actions. I'm going to grab find customer. Let's comment this all out first. We will copy it, bring it into user sagas. After find employee saga, paste this in as your find customer. Under that, export function and asterisk, find customer saga. We're going to do the exact same thing we did in find employee saga, so this should feel a little more familiar to you. We need to get the URL and the headers, which is just a normal way of doing both. Then we're going to write some saga code. So let res equal yield. This is an async fetch call. So we yield at the fetch call, and we're going to pass in the URL and the set headers. Next, we will have the res equal yield again. We need to go async to get the res.json. And then let, not employee, but customer equal res.results at 0. And then finally, we will yield put, which is going to send it to our reducer. We will put a type of find customer. It's just find customer. There we are. And we will have a payload of that customer. Perfect. Now that should be working. Let's bring this back in to the user actions. We'll refactor that now. We'll paste that in. We'll get rid of all of this. And we need to trade our dispatch for a return and get rid of our point to thunk because we're not using thunk. Now it says customer is not defined. That's because this shouldn't be here either. This is just sending along the type. Oh no, it's in user sagas, and let's see, I spelled customer, customer. Okay, customer. And there we are. Okay, now we need to watch for this. So we're going to do this again. You know what, let's type it out. Export function generator, watch, find customer, make sure I don't typo it this time. And there's our watch find customer saga. Inside of there it will yield, and we're going to need the take every find customer saga, and we're going to pass it to the find customer saga. Now we need to put this watcher into our root. Watch find customer saga. That auto imported for me right there. Let's see if this is working for us now. Can we find a customer? Here we are. And nothing happens. I imagine there was an error in the root. Yes. Just invoke that. It won't work unless it's invoked. Let's try it out. There we go. Indro, Lincoln, Alexandra. Everything is working perfectly there. So we've refactored both, and they're both working now with Redux Saga. There are a few more things I want to go over about it, because there's so much that this can do. So let's head back into our user sagas and talk about a few more things. I would like to do the find customer and the find employee at the same time, and there's a way to do that with sagas. Let's give that a shot. I'll just comment out the find employee one for right now, and we're going to make another one. So export function asterisk find employee saga. This is going to find both of them, of course. Const URL. You know what, we could just paste that stuff in. Let's do that. There we go. That's all we should really need from that function. And now we want to run these simultaneously. So how are we going to do that? Let's get started. Let's open up an array. It's going to be employee finder, comma, customer finder. And that will equal yield all. We're using that all keyword now. We've seen this before. Now this part is a call to the fetch API with the URL and the set headers. We're also going to make a second call to the fetch API with the same thing. Now the first call will be mapped to the employee finder, and the second call will be mapped to the customer finder. This is a lot like promises.all if you're familiar with that, and if you're not, this should get you a lot more comfortable with promises.all. The next thing we'll do is open this up again. Remember, we let it, so we could just go ahead and use it again. Just employee finder and just reassign these values to customer finder. And we'll reassign these values to another yield, all. Inside of there, we're going to do our other function that we did. I hate when that pops up. It makes things difficult to follow. So employee finder will now be employee finder.json as a function. And I'm doing something wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to open up an array, not an object. Open up that array. Okay, employee finder.json, and then we'll have customer finder.json. Now this is mapping the .json properties to employee finder and customer finder. 1 to 1 and 2 to 2, as so. The next thing we will do is yield all yet again. So employee finder, customer finder will equal yield all. And then we'll have the employee finder dot results at 0. And we'll also want the customer finder dot results at 0. That's what it'll look like. So we assigned at one point employee finder and customer finder as a let. We let these two keys. So now that we have these keys, properties, whatever you'd like to call them, we can reassign them whenever we want since they were a let. So if this looks strange to you, imagine every time we did a new const and then we renamed this, and that would be just fine too. There's just too many variables. I'd rather just have these two and do everything to them. Now at the end, we want to put two separate things. And we do that simply with a yield all, and inside of there, we're going to do our put. Put type. And the first one was the employee finder, so the type will be find employee. The payload should be the employee finder. And our second put will be very similar with a type of find customer and a payload of customer finder. Perfect. Make sure I have that. We'll save all of that. Now we have our find employee saga. We can name it whatever we'd like. Actually, I will rename it. Let's say let's just call it find both, and then we'll change this to find both. Now when it gets hit with a find employee saga type, it's going to push it to our new find both right here. And let's see if it works. This should be making these two variables here, these two lets, employee finder and customer finder. It should make the calls or fetch calls for us, and then it should take the JSON from those fetch calls, and then it should go through the results, get us the first result, and then we're going to yield all of these puts that are going to our reducer with the employee finder and the customer finder. So we should be able to find them both with one click of a button now. So employee name, let's find. And we definitely have an error here. It says before initialization. Oh, I see. We're actually going to need to do our semicolons ourselves here. Oh, wow, it made quite a mess when I pressed save. Can we go back? There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to put these through so it knows where I'm stopping, and then we can do it. Yeah, that got real weird. It put these in front of all of our alls. I'm sure that was the issue. Well, I hope that was the issue. Let's go ahead and find both. We did. We have a symbol I don't understand. Let's do one more. Okay, we have Steffi and Amelia. That's perfect. That's working perfectly on our find both, and they're going side by side. Let's do it again. Boom. Giomar and Todd. Perfect. Let's do one more really fun one. I'm going to get this, that find both. It actually got renamed when I did those undos, but it still worked because I undoed enough times to make that happen. If you can follow that, you're having a good time here. You're doing a good job, because this now says find employee saga, which means this must say find employee saga in order to pass the call to this function here. So that's what happened is when I pressed undo so many times, it not only made this back to find employee saga, it made this one back to find employee saga. And I'll just do a find both just so you can see what I'm talking about. Find both again. And now it'll still hit that same function. So find employee, and it finds both of them. Okay, great. So let me get rid of find both. And we actually do need to change it back to this one, the find employee saga. I'll turn this one back on. And you know what? I'll do my next function here too. Let's do our, we'll do our race me. It will be the name of the function. All right, so generator, race me. And let's see how fast we can get the information back from this URL. Oh, I wound up on the wrong page there. There we go. This URL here. Okay, we are now inside of RaceMe. We have the URL and the headers. We're going to make a const, and we're going to destructure, we'll say person and timeout. That will equal yield race. And then we'll have a person will be our first thing. That will be our call to the API, the fetch API. So call fetch and then pass in the URL and pass in the headers. Actually, it was set headers. Pass in the set headers. Then we'll define the timeout, which will be a delay. Oh, actually, what did I call it? I called it wait. I'll bring it in from the last one. Wait of 1,000, so 1 second. So there'll be a wait time of 1 second before this times out. So we're going to try to make this API call before this times out. And then we could quickly check that. We could say if person console.log success, else console.log too slow. Okay, now we have this cool RaceMe function, and we need to bring in the wait, or is that in already? No, we have that in the React testing library. I'm going to bring in the wait that I made back in my cart sagas, right here. Okay, let's give this a shot now. So if we click find employee, we're going to trigger RaceMe, and we want to see if we can fetch. We can make this fetch call within 1 second. Let's give it a shot. Success, we were able to do it within 1 second. Now let's lower this down. How about 100 milliseconds? Let's see if it gets the response quick enough. Too slow. Okay, 100 is too slow. Let's try the middle at 500. Success that time. Let's try again. 500 is pretty quick, and it's success every time. This is great. Let's go down to 400. Success there. Let's go down to 3. Success again. Let's definitely fail. I'm going to put it at 1. Too slow. Okay. So we know this does work and it does fail. Let's see if we get a response within 200 milliseconds. We do. We're getting great responses here. To 100, I think that failed before, right? Too slow. Okay, so this is a cool little test that we could do. We could always kind of see how fast things are moving, and we can even check to make sure things are going fast enough for us, see if we might have a problem on our back end or an API that we're fetching from. And now we've changed this app to use Redux Saga. I hope you learned a lot going through this with me, and if there's any questions or anything else you'd like to go over, please let me know. Thanks for being with me on this one, and I'll see you on the next one.